Hello, welcome back. Welcome back. I got a small break. It's 4 p.m. I think we have to close. I don't like to do it because it's super hot. This is very hot. I don't like to close, but I have to do it because it makes a lot of noise. Now all my Lego start to fall on the floor. But I had something was falling on the floor. Okay, here we have it. We have to look at this later. It's still 30 degrees. But now I lost more than 30 kilos. So let's read this history of the Northwest Territories. Probably I will never be able to go to there. That could be nice to go to the wilderness in the Canada. But that's really far away and you need to have a lot of money. Because you need a lot of gears. You need all backpacks, tents and sleeping bags and clothes. And they need to be real high quality. That would cost you $10,000 just to buy a backpack and sleeping bags and tent and clothes, what you need in the wilderness. If you need some real professional stuff for the wilderness, you not just use some cheap stuff to like a camping ground. You need to buy the best like expedition tents, expedition sleeping bags. And why should I go there? There's brown bears, that's dangerous animals. I don't have a weapon, I don't like to meet less brown bears. There's less big brown bears. And if you don't have a rifle or something, you cannot shoot it. I will need to have a big revolver or a rifle so I can shoot the bear. This brown bears, but you don't think you can have that in Canada if you're not citizen or tourist. But then you can just buy it. There's no police out in the wilderness. You can just bring a rifle. No, I don't like to walk around out there alone with no weapons. If you have a big angry brown bear attacking, you cannot shoot it. They are dangerous animals. Yes, let's read it. And the next is Northwest Territories. Then the city in Yellowknife, the main city in the Northwest Territories. And then this long list, Canadian province and territories, and about Canada. Then you go to Alaska Highway, Klondike Highway. You can maybe take this one first. Then my moon, been like there 1 week, so I have to read the moon soon. But let's try read this. But I live close to Sweden and Norway. They have some big forests there, and in Germany, they have some big forests in Germany.
History of the Northwest Territories. The history of the Northwest Territories covers the period from thousands of years ago to the present day. Prior to European colonization, the lands that encompass present-day Northwest Territories were inhabited for millennia by several First Nations. European explorers and fur traders began to explore the region since the late 16th century. By the 17th century, the British laid claim to both the Northwestern Territory and Rupert's Land, and granted the Hudson's Bay Company a commercial fur trade monopoly over the latter region. After the Deed of Surrender was enacted on the 23rd of June, 1870, the United Kingdom transferred the Northwestern Territory and Rupert's Land to the Government of Canada, with most all of the newly transferred territory administered as the Northwest Territories. The hyphen was later dropped after the passing of the Northwest Territories Act in 1906. 1. The territory reached its largest size in 1880, after the British Arctic territories were transferred from the United Kingdom to Canada, and incorporated into the Northwest Territories. However, the size of the territory was reduced several times during the late 18th and early 19th centuries. Major adjustments to the boundary of the territory during this period include severing of its western portions to form the Yukon Territory in 1898, severing its southwestern portions to form the provinces of Alberta and Saskatchewan in 1905, and transferring its remaining lands south of the 60th parallel north and the District of Ungava to the provinces of Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec in 1912. During the Cold War era, a number of responsibilities were devolved from the federal to territorial government, with the territory's capital transferred from Ottawa to Yellowknife in 1967. During the 20th century, the federal government entered into land claim negotiations with the Inuit Tippiwatit Kanatami. The resulting land claim negotiations saw the eastern portions of the territory separated from the rest, forming the territory of Nunavut in 1999. Contents. Early history: fur trade, 17th and 18th century. 1800-1870 exploration expeditions. Canadian Confederation and the late 19th century Treaty No. 8. 20th century interwar period, 1918-1939. World War II. Early Cold War era, 1945-1970. Late 20th century, 1971-2000. See also people. Places. Initiatives. References. Bibliography. Further reading. External links. Early history. Illustration of canoe building art. MacArthur Lake from Sun Hearn. Long before the Europeans arrived, Inuit and First Nations peoples inhabited the land area which became the Northwest Territories. Native Inuit included the Mackenzie, Copper, Caribou, and Central Nations. There were also many nations when the Europeans first arrived, among them the Yellowknives, Chipewyan, Sekani, Beaver, Nahani, Dogrib, and Slavey. 2. Martin Frobisher's expeditions in the 1570s were the first recorded visits to the Northwest Territories by a European. In 1610, Henry Hudson, while looking for the Northwest Passage, landed briefly on the western shore of the bay that bears his name. His discovery opened the interior of the continent to further exploration. 2. Other early explorers include Luke Fox, John Davis, Robert Bylot, Thomas Button, George Weymouth, Thomas James, and William Baffin. Fur trade, 17th and 18th century. In 1670, King Charles II granted a charter to the Governor and Company of Adventurers of England trading into Hudson's Bay, known as the Hudson's Bay Company, HBC. It included the Hudson's Bay watershed. 3. By the 1700s, European trade in the Northwest Territories was dominated by two fur trading companies, the Hudson's Bay Company, based in London, England, and the Northwest Company based in Montreal. 2. Fur trade explorer Peter Pond led the way through the Methi Portage into the vast territory off the northwest where the rivers flowed north rather than east. 4. In 1771, Samuel Hearne was the first European to reach the shore of the Arctic Ocean by an overland route via the Coppermine River. Further west and 18 years later, in 1789, Alexander Mackenzie reached the Arctic Ocean. The river he navigated to get there now bears his name. York Factory later served as the Hudson's Bay Company's headquarters. The HBC depended on the furs coming to York Factory. The Northwest Company competed with the HBC by traveling throughout the territory obtaining furs as they did so. Some of these trader explorers kept journals and had them published. Public interest developed as a result. As the Europeans increased their presence, they involved the First Nations as guides and suppliers of furs. The Chipewyan acted as middlemen. They brought to York Factory the furs of the western tribes. The Cree, Chipewyan, Beaver and Yellowknives obtained firearms. With this new advantage, they dominated the Athapascan neighbors, i.e. the Slavey, Sekani, and Dogrib peoples. 5. 1800–1870. A map of North America exhibiting through taken by Alexander Mackenzie from Montreal to Fort Chipewyan, and finally the Arctic Ocean. In the early 1800s, perhaps 1810, the Northwest Company established a post at Tualatin, Fort Norman, at the junction of the Mackenzie and Great Bear Rivers. The site changed several times, but the community of Tualatin is located on the original site today. 6. In 1821, the Northwest Company and the Hudson's Bay Company merged under the name of the latter. By 1825, Sir George Simpson advanced from the junior governor in charge of company's northern department to be the head of this new company. Simpson traveled throughout the Northwest. For 40 years he led the company. For most of that time, he made at least a major journey by canoe every year. 7. Exploration expeditions. John Franklin's men constructing a camp during the first winter of the expedition to Coppermine River. C. 1820 Franklin's Coppermine expedition of 1819–1822 had as its goal the exploration of the northern coast of Canada, which was accessed by way of the Coppermine River. The British expedition was organized by the Royal Navy as part of its attempt to discover and map the Northwest Passage. It was the first of 3 Arctic expeditions to be led by John Franklin, and also included George Back and John Richardson, both of whom would become significant Arctic explorers in their own right. In 1825, Franklin set out on his second expedition to the Canadian North. He traveled to the mouth of the Mackenzie River and then spent the winter at Fort Franklin, now Deline, on Great Bear Lake. Franklin's fateful third expedition began in 1845 and was never heard from again. A massive search followed, at first finding little trace of the expedition but resulting in the mapping of much of the Arctic coastline. It was eventually learned that Franklin had died in 1847, and the remains of the expedition's 2 ships were finally found in 2014 and 2016. George Back, a British naval officer, naturalist and artist, served under John Franklin in his first expedition to the Arctic in 1818. On Franklin's inland Coppermine expedition of 1819–1822, Back was responsible for all the surveying and chart making. Then on the Mackenzie River expedition in 1824–1826, Back was promoted to lieutenant and then to commander. Canadian Confederation and the late 19th century. After the deed of surrender was enacted, the United Kingdom transferred ownership of Rupert's Land and Northwestern Territory from the Hudson's Bay Company to the Government of Canada. However, integration of the territories into Canadian Confederation was delayed by the Red River Rebellion around Thread River Colony. Eventually the territories were admitted into Canadian Confederation on 15 July 1870 as the Northwest Territories, barring the area around the Red River Colony, which was admitted into Canadian Confederation as the province of Manitoba. In 1880, the British Arctic Territories was transferred from the United Kingdom to Government of Canada and was administered as a part of the Northwest Territories. Map depicting Canada in 1870, with Rupert's Land and the Northwestern Territory shaded in. The territories were transferred from the UK to Canada in 1870 as a part of Deed of Surrender, with most of these lands becoming the Northwest Territories late 19th century. The first Northwest Territories government sat in 1872 after the temporary Northwest Council was appointed. The first Northwest Territories government sat inside the territories at Fort Livingston for the first time in 1876. Now in Saskatchewan. The government moved to Battleford in 1878. 8. The first territorial election took place in 1881. French was abolished as an official language in 1892. During the late 19th century, the boundaries of the territories were defined a number of times. In 1886, the district of Keewatin southwestern border was adjusted. In 1889, the disputed area between Manitoba and Ontario was generally granted to Ontario, with some going to the district of Keewatin, and Manitoba getting none. In 1898, following the Klondike Gold Rush, the Yukon stopped being part of the Northwest Territories. A separate Yukon Territory is created from the Western Northwest Territories. Treaty No. 8. Markers commemorating the Treaty 8 site at Fort Resolution in June 1899. Negotiation began on Treaty No. 8, which covered 840,000 square kilometers in the Northwest Territories. It was an agreement between the Canadian government and the Dene groups in the area in question, in return for their willingness to share their land with non-natives. The Dene would receive medical and educational assistance, as well as treaty payments. The Canadian government and the various Dene groups, including Yellowknives and TCH under Chief Dregis with Headman Benai and Sekiglinen, signed the treaty in 1900 at Fort Resolution, called by the TCH-NDA with Grave. After the signing, the group that signed the treaty was called the Yellowknife B Band, Helm, 7, 1994. At that point in history, Treaty No. 8 was the largest land settlement the Canadian government had ever made. PWNHC, Historical. 9, 20th century. In 1901, the borders of Yukon Territory were changed, gaining area from the Northwest Territories. Alberta and Saskatchewan separated from the territories in 1905. Although the district of Keewatin was given back to the territories, the population dropped from approx 160,000 to 17,000, of which 16,000 were Aboriginal and had no right to vote under Canadian law. 10. The government of the Northwest Territories defaulted back to its 1870 constitutional status, and once again came under federal control, governed from Ottawa. In 1906, the official name dropped the hyphen, changing to Northwest Territories. 11, 12. On May 15, 1912, parts of the Northwest Territories were given to Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. Interwar period, 1918-1939. In 1912, the southeastern portions of the Northwest Territories were transferred to various provincial jurisdictions. After this, the territory remained the same size from 1912 to 1999. 20 years after Treaty Number 8 was signed, oil was discovered in the Mackenzie River Valley. Upon the discovery, the Canadian government proposed another treaty that would clear the way for miners and development of the area.